The human stood defiant, and the princess smiled in approval. The city was vast and gleaming, a labyrinth of towering structures, shimmering walkways and floating gardens that seemed to hang in the sky like jewels. Its people moved with precision, each step carefully measured, their gestures elegant and deliberate. Technology flowed through the veins of the city, from hovering vehicles to intricate energy conduits that powered every building. Yet, despite its beauty, there was a sense of rigidity, a quiet order that seemed almost unbreakable. High above the city, in the grand palace perched on the central plateau, Princess Lyra looked out over her domain. Her eyes, a bright shade of emerald, reflected both pride and curiosity. She had ruled with wisdom and compassion, guiding her people with a blend of intelligence and empathy. But she also had a keen mind for novelty, for the unexpected. Today, something unusual had caught her attention. A small object appeared in the sky, moving steadily toward the city. It was unlike any craft her people had ever seen, sleek, angular, and emitting a faint blue glow. The palace sensors quickly flagged it as unknown. The council gathered around her, their expressions a mixture of concern and intrigue. "It is not one of ours," one of the advisors said, his voice precise. "Nor is it a craft from the neighboring systems. It is something else." Lyra's eyes never left the descending ship. "Then we shall meet it," she said calmly. "Let us see what it brings." As the craft landed gently on the central platform, a hush fell over the gathering crowd. Steam hissed from the ship's surface as it touched the ground, and a soft blue light pulsed from its engines. A single hatch opened and a figure emerged. He was human, a species known only from ancient records and myths. He was dressed in simple clothing, a durable suit meant for exploration, with a small toolkit slung across his shoulder. The crowd murmured in astonishment. Humans were supposed to be rare, even legendary. Few on Sci-Fi had ever seen one. And yet here he was, calm and unassuming, stepping onto the platform as if he had every right to be there. The human's name was Elias. He carried himself with quiet confidence, his eyes scanning the city with curiosity and appreciation. He seemed entirely at ease, though the crowd's scrutiny could have unsettled anyone else. He knelt down to inspect a small device embedded in the platform's surface, a malfunction in one of the energy regulators, which was causing a faint flicker in the city's lights. The aliens around him hesitated. None of them would dare touch the city's systems without official permission. Yet Elias worked quickly and efficiently, his hands steady as he adjusted wires and calibrated the device, using only his toolkit and ingenuity. The flicker disappeared and the energy flowed smoothly again. A soft murmur spread through the crowd. This human had done what none of them dared try, and he had done it flawlessly. From her vantage point, Princess Lyra smiled. There was something remarkable about this outsider. He was not the fastest, the strongest, or the most powerful, yet he had solved a problem that her most skilled engineers would have debated for hours. There was ingenuity in his simplicity, confidence in his humility, and courage in his calmness. Elias stood and faced the crowd, bowing slightly in respect. "I am Elias," he said, his voice steady and polite. "I come in peace. I mean no harm." The citizens of Elendra were silent, unsure how to respond. Their society was built on rules, order, and precision, and this human seemed to exist outside of all that. Yet there was no threat in him, only curiosity and skill. Princess Lyra descended from her balcony, her robes flowing gracefully behind her. She approached Elias, her expression warm yet inquisitive. "Welcome to Elendra," she said. "You are the first human our people have seen in centuries. Tell me, Elias, what brings you to our world?" Elias met her gaze, steady and respectful. "I am an explorer," he replied simply. "I seek knowledge, understanding, and friendship. I travel not to conquer but to learn. I have heard of your civilization and its remarkable achievements, and I wish to see them for myself." Lyra's smile widened slightly. There was honesty in his words, a sincerity that was rare among visitors. She gestured to her advisors, who stepped back respectfully. "Then you shall have our hospitality. You will stay in the palace and learn our ways if you wish. But first, I would like to see how you interact with our city, with our people. Can you do that?" Elias nodded. "It would be my honor." Over the next few hours, Elias moved through Elendra with a mixture of curiosity and purpose. He observed the floating gardens, marveled at the flowing energy conduits, and spoke with citizens about their daily lives. Where others relied solely on technology, he found small ways to help, adjusting a malfunctioning transport pod, suggesting a more efficient layout for a communal workspace, and even helping children with their engineering puzzles. The citizens watched in amazement. He did not act like a ruler or a scholar. He acted like a human, curious, compassionate, and creative. Where their society prized perfection and procedure, Elias brought adaptability and ingenuity. By mid-afternoon, a challenge arose. A section of the city's communication network began to flicker and fail, leaving several districts without proper coordination. The engineers rushed to the site, but the problem was unusual, and their standard methods offered no solution. Elias, observing the scene, stepped forward quietly. "May I?" he asked, and the engineers hesitated. It was unorthodox, but there was something about his presence that inspired trust. He knelt beside the main console, studying the wiring and energy flows with a calm intensity. He asked questions, made careful adjustments, and even improvised a few simple tools to bypass the faulty circuits temporarily. Within minutes, the network stabilized and the flickering ceased. The citizens erupted in astonished applause. Elias had done what even the most skilled engineers could not, yet he did not seek recognition. He stood humbly, brushing off the praise with a quiet smile. Princess Lyra watched the scene closely. She felt a rare sense of approval and admiration. There was something about this human that resonated deeply with her, a defiance not of disrespect but of expectation. He had not followed their rules, yet he had achieved what their rules could not. Later, as the sun began to set over the city, Elias was led to the palace gardens where Lyra awaited. The gardens were serene, a blend of nature and technology, with bioluminescent plants that glowed softly as evening approached. "You are remarkable," Lyra said softly. "Your ways are not ours, and yet you have accomplished so much today. You did not rely on our systems nor on our procedures. You relied on yourself." Elias smiled, a quiet warmth in his eyes. "I have always believed that challenges can be met in many ways. Technology is powerful, but creativity, observation, and care are just as strong." Lyra nodded, thinking deeply. There was wisdom in his words, a reminder that her world, for all its brilliance, could learn from someone so different. "You have given me hope," she said finally. "Hope that our society can grow, not just through structure, but through courage and individuality." As the evening deepened, Elias and the princess walked together through the gardens, discussing ideas, possibilities, and the wonders of their respective worlds. For the first time in many years, Lyra felt a spark of excitement, not from innovation or efficiency, but from the simple human qualities of ingenuity, kindness, and determination. And though she did not say it aloud, her smile carried a quiet approval. This human had stood defiant, not against her, nor her people, but against the limitations of expectation. And in doing so, he had earned her admiration, a rare and precious gift in a world that prized order above all else. By the time night fully fell, the stars of Sci-Fi twinkled overhead, mirrored by the soft glow of the palace and city below. Elias looked up, thinking of the many worlds he had yet to visit, but for now, he felt a sense of belonging in this foreign city. He had arrived as a stranger, but through patience, respect, and his own human ingenuity, he had begun to leave a mark that promised friendship, collaboration, and a bridge between two very different worlds. Princess Lyra watched him from the garden path, her smile lingering. She knew that the days to come would be filled with learning, challenges, and discoveries. And she was certain of one thing: the human who had arrived today would change more than just their perception of him. He might just change their world itself. The morning sun bathed Elendra in a warm, golden glow, casting long shadows across the floating gardens and glimmering walkways. The city hummed with life, yet a quiet excitement filled the air. Today was the day of the annual Challenge of Harmony, a tradition that celebrated intellect, creativity, and cooperation. Every citizen, from the youngest apprentice to the most senior engineer, looked forward to the event. It was a way to showcase ingenuity, strengthen community bonds, and solve complex problems together. Elias awoke early in the palace guest quarters. The room was simple yet elegant, designed for comfort and practicality. Light filtered through crystalline windows, and the soft scent of the palace gardens drifted in on the morning breeze. He stretched and prepared himself for the day, reflecting on the events of the previous afternoon. The citizens had watched him with awe as he solved the energy problem, and the princess had smiled in quiet approval. Elias did not seek attention, but he understood that today would be different. He made his way to the central plaza, where citizens had already gathered. The plaza was filled with vibrant energy, banners swaying in the light breeze, and children laughing as they practiced small engineering exercises. Hovering platforms moved gently above the crowd, broadcasting the event to those unable to attend in person. Princess Lyra appeared on the grand balcony, her presence commanding yet graceful. The crowd fell silent as she addressed them. "Welcome, citizens of Elendra, to the annual Challenge of Harmony. Today, we celebrate creativity, collaboration, and the pursuit of knowledge. Among us is a visitor, a human named Elias, who has already shown remarkable ingenuity. Let him join us, and let us learn together." A ripple of excitement passed through the crowd. Whispers spread as citizens looked at Elias with curiosity. Humans were rare, and none had ever participated in the challenge. Yet Elias approached with calm confidence, his expression warm and open. The first task was a problem that required both logical thinking and creative design. A network of energy conduits had been intentionally scrambled, and teams were asked to restore flow while optimizing efficiency. Alien participants immediately applied their precise calculations and algorithms, working in strict order. Their movements were synchronized, almost robotic in their precision. Elias observed quietly for a moment. He did not have access to their complex algorithms, nor did he rely on advanced tools. Instead, he walked through the network, examining each junction carefully, asking simple questions, and using his intuition to guide him. He noticed small patterns that the automated calculations had overlooked, minor inefficiencies caused by overcomplicated procedures. With a few careful adjustments, he improved the flow and suggested minor reroutes that allowed the energy to move more smoothly. The alien participants paused, impressed. Their structured approach had achieved functionality, but Elias had achieved elegance, simplicity, and efficiency combined. The second task required collaboration. Teams were given a group of citizens to design a system for distributing resources in a simulated city. The aliens approached methodically, assigning roles, analyzing data, and planning every step. Elias, on the other hand, engaged with the citizens directly. He listened to their experiences, understood their needs, and suggested solutions that were practical and flexible. Where the aliens had focused on perfection and precision, Elias focused on adaptability and understanding. He encouraged citizens to speak freely, to share ideas without fear of making mistakes. Slowly, the group began to flourish, combining their efforts with Elias' guidance. The solution they produced was not perfect in a mechanical sense, but it was effective, human-centered, and sustainable. The princess watched from the balcony, noting every detail. She had always valued intellect and order, But today she observed a new form of intelligence, one that relied on empathy, creativity, and courage. Elias was not defying her society out of rebellion. He was showing that there was more than one path to success. Her smile returned, subtle but sincere. As the day progressed, the challenges grew more complex. One required participants to navigate a maze of floating platforms, each connected by energy bridges that shifted unpredictably. Alien teams used precise calculations and timing to cross, but small errors caused delays. Elias approached the challenge differently. He observed the movement patterns carefully, then waited for the right moment to step. He adapted to the shifting bridges in real time, moving with balance and attention rather than relying solely on pre-planned calculations. He reached the center of the maze with ease, helping others along the way and showing them how to anticipate changes. Citizens began to follow his example, learning to combine structure with observation, and the maze became less intimidating for everyone. The fourth challenge tested creativity. Teams were asked to design a device that could assist citizens in their daily lives, using only limited resources and basic principles of energy and mechanics. Alien teams immediately assembled complex machines, precise but difficult to operate. Elias, however, thought about simplicity and usability. He built a small, portable device that could perform multiple functions with minimal effort. It was elegant, intuitive, and approachable. When citizens tested the devices, they found Elias' design easier to understand and use. Even those who had struggled with more complicated machines felt confident operating his creation. The princess, watching intently, leaned forward with curiosity. Elias had achieved something remarkable, not just solving the challenge, but empowering others to succeed as well. By late afternoon, the final task was announced. Participants were asked to address a simulated emergency, a city-wide system failure that required coordination, creativity, and speed. Alien teams immediately applied advanced strategies and complex procedures, but the simulation threw unexpected variables at them. Bridges shifted differently, resources appeared in unusual locations, and communication channels faltered. Many teams struggled to adapt. Elias, calm as ever, observed the situation and spoke with the citizens involved. He combined the technical knowledge of the aliens with practical, human-centric strategies. He assigned roles based on people's strengths, improvised tools, and used observation to anticipate changes. Slowly, order emerged from chaos. The system stabilized and the simulation concluded successfully. The crowd erupted in applause. Citizens cheered, not only for the success of the challenge but for the method that had guided them. They were inspired by Elias' combination of observation, creativity, and humility. Princess Lyra descended to the plaza to meet him in person. She approached slowly, her eyes reflecting admiration. "Elias," she said, her voice clear and warm, "you have done more than participate in our challenge of harmony. You have shown us a new way of thinking, a new approach to problem solving, and you have inspired our citizens. You stand apart not because you are different, but because you embody qualities we often overlook." Elias bowed slightly, a modest smile on his face. "Thank you, Princess. I only tried to observe, listen, and act with care. I believe that every problem has multiple solutions and every individual has value to contribute." Lyra's smile deepened. "Indeed. Your courage, patience, and creativity have made a lasting impression on all of us. You have shown that the strength of humanity is not only in knowledge or technology, but in adaptability, empathy, and the willingness to stand by one's principles." The citizens gathered around, eager to express their appreciation. Many approached Elias to shake his hand, ask questions, or seek advice. He spoke with each person patiently, encouraging curiosity and cooperation. Children in particular were fascinated by him, and he spent time showing them how to approach problems creatively, emphasizing that mistakes were part of learning. As evening fell, the plaza glowed with soft lights, and the city seemed to pulse with a quiet energy. Elias and the princess walked together along the balcony above the plaza, observing the citizens below. She spoke softly, reflecting on the day's events. Your presence has reminded me that even in a world built on precision and order, there is room for flexibility, for imagination, and for heart. You have not only succeeded in the challenges, but you have reminded us of the value of humanity itself. Elias looked down at the city, the floating platforms and gardens glowing under the evening sky. Your world is beautiful, he said. It is organized, disciplined, and thoughtful. I have learned much from it, and I hope my perspective has offered something in return. Together our strengths can create something remarkable. Lyra nodded, her gaze thoughtful. Yes, together. You have shown us that defiance does not always mean rebellion. Sometimes it means courage to think differently, to act with care, and to inspire others without force or power. I am proud of what you have achieved today, and I am proud of the example you have set. As the night deepened, the city seemed to hum with a quiet harmony, reflecting the unity and curiosity that had been awakened by the human visitor. Elias had arrived as a stranger, but he had begun to leave a lasting impact on Elendra. The citizens had witnessed the strength of human ingenuity, creativity, and compassion, a strength that complemented their own disciplined society. Princess Lyra's final words of the day lingered in Elia's mind. She smiled quietly, not with words but with recognition. His actions had earned her approval, and in doing so, he had taken the first step toward bridging the worlds of humans and seraphins. A new chapter was beginning, one filled with collaboration, understanding, and the promise of shared knowledge. And though the city rested under the calm night sky, there was a sense of anticipation, as if everyone knew that the days ahead would be full of discovery, growth, and the quiet triumphs that come from standing firm in one's principles. Elias had shown that even a single human, acting with courage, intelligence, and empathy, could make a profound difference in a world that had never known him. The following morning, Elendra was bathed in a soft, pearly light. The city seemed to awaken with purpose, floating gardens glimmering gently as the energy conduits pulsed in a quiet rhythm. Citizens moved with practiced grace, but today there was a palpable excitement in the air. The previous day's challenge of harmony had left a lasting impression. Citizens spoke in whispers and laughter about the human visitor, Elias, and how his presence had inspired creativity, cooperation, and new ways of thinking. Elias, however, approached the day with humility. He had been invited to stay in Elendra for a time, not just as a visitor but as an observer, a participant, and a teacher in small ways. He was eager to learn, but also to offer what he could: simple ideas, practical solutions, and encouragement. Princess Lyra appeared in the palace courtyard, her robes flowing gracefully as she walked toward Elias. "Good morning, Elias," she said, her tone warm. "The citizens are eager to see what lessons we can take from you today. Are you prepared for what lies ahead?" Elias smiled. "I am ready. Whatever challenges there are, I will do my best to learn from them and with them." Lyra's smile deepened. "Very well, follow me." She led him to a vast observation hall overlooking the city's central systems. It was a place where engineers, scholars, and citizens could monitor the city's operations, the heart of Elendra's intricate balance. As they arrived, alarms softly chimed and lights flickered across the monitoring panels. A system anomaly had appeared in the city's energy distribution network. Small disruptions were beginning to affect transportation platforms, communication arrays, and even the floating gardens, nutrient flows. The engineers had already begun diagnostic procedures, but this anomaly was unlike anything they had encountered before. Elias knelt beside one of the panels, observing the energy patterns. He did not rely solely on the alien technology, but combined his human intuition with careful observation. He noticed that the disruptions were not random. They followed a subtle pattern, influenced by fluctuations in the city's environmental cycles. "This is not a simple failure," he said thoughtfully. "It is a cascade triggered by several minor irregularities, which together create a larger problem." The lead engineer nodded. "Yes, we have detected anomalies, but they are difficult to predict or correct. Our systems are precise, but they were not designed for fluctuations like these." Elias studied the panels, tracing the flows with his fingers, his mind working in quiet focus. "We need to approach this in layers. Correct the immediate disruptions, stabilize the patterns, and then adjust the underlying cycles gradually. A single fix will not work. It must be a coordinated effort." The princess watched quietly, impressed by his clarity and confidence. Elia's approach was not about speed, nor about following rules blindly. It was about understanding, adaptability, and careful action, a combination that her city's rigid systems had rarely seen. Elias organized small teams of citizens and engineers. He spoke calmly, explaining each step and encouraging collaboration. "Observe, communicate, and adjust together. Every contribution matters, and every mind can help find the solution." For hours, they worked together. Small problems arose, and Elias guided the teams with patience, showing them how to combine logic with intuition. Citizens who had been hesitant to speak before now offered ideas, inspired by his encouragement. Engineers learned to combine their precision with human flexibility, adapting their approaches in real time. At one point, a critical transport platform threatened to collapse due to a misaligned energy conduit. The engineers panicked slightly, unsure how to stabilize it quickly. Elias knelt, examining the controls and the platform structure. With careful, deliberate adjustments, he guided the system back into balance. The platform rose gently, stabilized, and resumed its normal function. The crowd that had gathered to observe murmured in awe, recognizing the human's ingenuity once again. As evening approached, the anomaly persisted, but the city was no longer in chaos. Patterns began to stabilize, and disruptions lessened under the combined efforts of Elias and the teams. Citizens and engineers worked together seamlessly, their confidence growing as they saw the results of collaboration. Princess Lyra approached Elias as the last light of the sun reflected off the floating gardens. "You have done more than correct a system," she said. "You have taught our people to work together in ways they had not before. You have reminded us that even the most advanced technology requires understanding, compassion, and observation." Elias shook his head gently. "I only guided them. The solutions came from the people themselves. I just helped them see what they already knew." Lyra smiled, her eyes shining with admiration. "And yet, your guidance has made all the difference. You have reminded us that courage and clarity of thought can solve problems that rigid rules cannot. You have shown us the strength of humanity, not through power, but through understanding." That night, the city rested under a sky filled with stars. Citizens returned to their homes with quiet pride, inspired by the day's events. Children spoke excitedly about the human who had helped save the city from chaos, imagining themselves solving problems with similar courage and intelligence. Elias walked with Princess Lyra through the palace gardens. The bioluminescent plants cast soft, shimmering light, and the floating petals seemed to sway in time with their steps. "Your city is extraordinary," Elias said. "It is a place of precision, beauty, and care. And yet I have learned that even the most remarkable systems can benefit from a fresh perspective." Lyra nodded thoughtfully. "Indeed, you have reminded us that there is strength in diversity, in thought, approach, and action. Your presence has sparked new ideas and renewed confidence among our citizens. That is a gift far greater than any technical solution." As they walked, they encountered a group of young apprentices. Their eyes widened as they saw Elia's, and one of them spoke hesitantly. "Sir, how did you know what to do? We could not figure out the problem." Elias knelt to their level, smiling warmly. "I watched, I listened, and I thought carefully. The answers were all around me." Sometimes solving a problem is not about knowing everything. It is about observing, understanding, and trying. Mistakes are part of learning, and courage comes from trying anyway. The apprentices nodded, inspired by his words. They began to ask questions, eager to learn from his approach, and Elias responded with patience, demonstrating small techniques and offering guidance. Princess Lyra observed silently, her smile growing. She realized that the influence of a single human could ripple through an entire society, not through force, but through example, understanding, and encouragement. Elias stood defiant, not against her, nor against the city, but against limitations of expectation. And in doing so, he had inspired confidence, creativity, and courage in every citizen he encountered. Later, they returned to the observation hall, where the engineers were reviewing the city's systems. "We owe much to you, Elias," said the lead engineer. "Your approach allowed us to see problems in a new way, to adapt, and to succeed. We have never worked together like this before." Elias smiled humbly. "You all contributed equally. I only helped you see what was possible." The credit belongs to everyone who took part, and to the city itself, which has the strength to grow, adapt, and improve. Lyra placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You have done more than we could have imagined. You have not only helped stabilize the city, but have reminded us of the power of understanding, collaboration, and courage. You have shown us that the human spirit is capable of remarkable things." The city lights reflected in her eyes as she spoke, and Elias felt a quiet warmth in his chest. He had come as a stranger, curious and respectful, and he had left a mark not through force or power, but through thought, patience, and care. As the night deepened, the citizens of Elendra gathered in the plaza once more. They shared stories of the day's events, marveling at the human who had guided them through challenges, inspired confidence, and fostered collaboration. Children spoke of his courage and patience, while adults reflected on the lessons they had learned from his example. Elias, standing quietly among them, observed the scene with calm satisfaction. He had not sought recognition, yet he had earned it through his actions. The city had grown stronger, more confident, and more willing to embrace new ideas, not because they were forced to, but because they saw the value in learning, adapting, and acting with care. Princess Lyra approached him one final time that night, standing at the edge of the balcony overlooking the plaza. Her eyes sparkled with admiration. "You have done something extraordinary today, Elias. Not through power or authority, but through intelligence, observation, and heart. You have reminded us of what it means to stand firm in one's principles, to act with care, and to inspire others by example." Elias bowed slightly. "Thank you, Princess. Your guidance and the openness of your people made it possible. Together, we have shown that challenges can be met, and that understanding and courage are as important as knowledge and technology." Lyra smiled softly, a quiet glow of approval in her eyes. She knew that his influence would extend far beyond the events of today. The city, inspired by his presence, would approach future challenges with renewed confidence, creativity, and collaboration. And the lessons he had shared, the strength of humanity through empathy, ingenuity, and courage, would endure in the hearts of the citizens. As the stars shone brightly above Elendra, the city rested in harmony, a quiet testament to the power of understanding and collaboration. Elias had arrived as a stranger, but he had proven that even one human, standing with courage, intelligence, and empathy, could guide a society to discover new ways of thinking, acting, and thriving. Princess Lyra's smile lingered long after he left her side. She had witnessed the defiance of convention, not in rebellion, but in the quiet, steadfast application of human qualities that her society had rarely seen. And she knew, without a doubt, that Elia's presence had left a mark that would shape Elendra's future in ways both profound and lasting. The morning sky over Elendra was soft and bright, the floating gardens casting long, delicate shadows across the city's silver walkways. Citizens moved with quiet purpose, carrying the excitement of the past days with them. The challenge of harmony had concluded, but the lessons Elias had shared were still unfolding. His presence had inspired new ways of thinking, cooperation, and creativity throughout the city. Today, however, there was one final event, a day dedicated to reflection, recognition, and celebration. Elias stepped onto the palace terrace, feeling a mixture of humility and quiet pride. The citizens had embraced him warmly, but he understood that today would be more than observation. It would be a moment to bring closure to his visit, to celebrate collaboration and the spirit of human ingenuity. Princess Lyra approached him, her eyes reflecting the same warmth and admiration that had grown since his arrival. "Elias," she said softly, "your presence in our city has been extraordinary. You have not only solved problems, but you have inspired our citizens to see possibilities beyond their expectations. Today, we celebrate that." The citizens gathered in the central plaza, their excitement palpable. Children waved small banners, apprentices carried models of devices they had created inspired by Elia's guidance, and adults shared stories of teamwork and innovation. The energy of Elendra had never felt so alive, so connected. Elias moved through the crowd quietly, observing the interactions. He saw citizens discussing new ideas, experimenting with designs, and encouraging one another to think differently. His heart swelled with quiet satisfaction. This was the true reward, not recognition, but the growth, confidence, and joy of others. The first activity of the day involved presenting the results of several community projects inspired by the challenge of harmony. Small teams had created practical devices, innovative energy solutions, and collaborative systems to improve daily life. Each presentation highlighted creativity, problem-solving, and teamwork. Elias watched as citizens spoke confidently about their work, demonstrating techniques and ideas they had learned from him. A young apprentice named Talia stepped forward, her hands trembling slightly as she held a small, multifunctional device. "This was inspired by Elia's guidance," she said, her voice clear and proud. "He taught us that every problem has many solutions, and that working together can create results we could not imagine alone." The crowd erupted in applause. Elias smiled gently and nodded, motioning for her to continue. He did not need accolades. Seeing understanding and confidence in others was enough. Princess Lyra stood beside him, her expression filled with pride. She had watched the human inspire courage, ingenuity, and empathy in ways her society had rarely seen. After the presentations, the final activity was announced. Citizens and guests were invited to participate in a collaborative design exercise, a symbolic event to represent the unity of Elendra's people with the lessons Elias had brought. Teams were tasked with creating a structure that could both function and inspire, a reflection of harmony, ingenuity, and collaboration. Elias approached the challenge thoughtfully. He observed the groups, noticing how ideas flowed differently when citizens felt free to experiment, share, and adjust without fear of making mistakes. He offered guidance sparingly, focusing on encouraging observation, collaboration, and flexibility. One team struggled with a design that was too rigid, their calculations precise but their structure impractical. Elias knelt beside them, asking simple questions and gently suggesting alternatives. "What if you adjust this part?" he asked. "Could the structure adapt if the conditions change?" The team hesitated but followed his guidance. Slowly, the design began to take shape. It was not perfect by strict technical standards, but it was elegant, flexible, and functional. Other teams began to adopt similar approaches, combining their precision with the adaptability Elias encouraged. Princess Lyra observed quietly, a gentle smile on her face. She realized that the true impact of Elia's presence went beyond individual accomplishments. It was the awakening of collective creativity, the subtle understanding that collaboration and adaptability could achieve far more than rigid adherence to procedure alone. As the day progressed, the collaborative structure took form. Citizens worked side by side, sharing ideas, adjusting designs, and learning from one another. Elias moved among them, offering encouragement and gentle guidance. He emphasized observation, patience, and empathy, the qualities that had allowed him to navigate challenges and inspire others. By afternoon, the structure was complete. It was a graceful combination of floating elements, flowing energy conduits, and interconnected platforms, symbolizing unity, creativity, and adaptability. Citizens stood back to admire their work, their faces bright with pride and satisfaction. Even the youngest children beamed, knowing that their contributions mattered. Princess Lyra approached Elias as he observed the structure. "It is magnificent," she said, "not because it is perfect, but because it represents what we have learned together. You have shown us that courage, patience, and creativity are as important as skill and technology. You have reminded us of the value of the human spirit." Elias shook his head gently. "It was not only me, it was all of you." The citizens of Elendra embraced the challenge, shared ideas, and worked together. "I only guided and encouraged. The strength came from each of you." Lyra's smile deepened. "And yet, your presence was the catalyst. You reminded us of what we sometimes forget, that understanding, observation, and courage can solve problems that rules alone cannot. You have given us more than solutions. You have given us inspiration." The citizens gathered once more as the princess addressed them. Her voice carried through the plaza, clear and melodic. "Today, we celebrate more than accomplishments. We celebrate growth, unity, and the courage to think differently. We honor a visitor from another world, a human named Elias, who has shown us the power of understanding, creativity, and compassion." The crowd erupted in applause and cheers. Children waved small banners, apprentices bowed respectfully, and citizens clapped with genuine admiration. Elias felt a warmth spread through him, not pride, but quiet satisfaction that his presence had made a positive difference. As the celebration continued, Princess Lyra stepped forward and placed a gentle hand on Elias' shoulder. Her smile radiated approval and respect. "You have stood defiant, not against our city, nor against our ways, but in your approach, your courage, and your dedication to understanding. You have reminded us that standing firm in one's principles, acting with care, and encouraging others is the truest form of strength." Elias looked at her, humbled by her words. "Thank you, Princess. I only tried to do what I believed was right. Your people's openness and willingness to learn made it possible." Lyra nodded. "You have changed Elendra, Elias. Not through force, not through power, but through the quiet, steadfast application of your humanity. You have taught us lessons that will last far beyond today." The citizens, sensing the significance of the moment, gathered closer. Some spoke softly, sharing personal reflections of how Elias' presence had influenced their thinking. One apprentice said, "I never knew that creativity and careful thought could work together so well. Elias showed me that trying, observing, and learning can solve problems I once thought impossible." Another citizen added, "I have always followed the rules strictly, but watching him work reminded me that flexibility and empathy are also strengths. We can achieve more when we think and act together." Elias listened to their words with quiet gratitude. He knew that the true achievement was not in any single solution or invention, but in the spark of understanding and confidence he had helped ignite in others. As the sun set, painting the city in shades of gold and pink, the final ceremony began. Citizens and leaders gathered on the palace terrace to honor the achievements of the day and reflect on the lessons learned. The collaborative structure stood proudly in the center of the plaza, a symbol of unity, adaptability, and creativity. Princess Lyra turned to Elias once more. "You have earned not only the respect of our citizens but also my admiration. You embody qualities that we sometimes forget: the courage to act thoughtfully, the patience to observe, and the ability to inspire without demanding. You have reminded us that even in a world of precision and order, the human spirit can shine brightly." Elias bowed slightly, feeling a quiet sense of fulfillment. "Your city is extraordinary," he said. "I came as a visitor, curious and respectful, and I leave with gratitude for the opportunity to share ideas and learn alongside you all. The true strength is not mine alone, but that of the people who embraced collaboration and creativity." Lyra's smile lingered, warm and approving. "Elendra will remember your contributions, Elias, and more importantly, we will carry forward the lessons you have shared. Your presence has sparked a new perspective, one that will guide our society for years to come." The citizens cheered once more, their admiration and respect filling the plaza. Children waved to Elias, apprentices bowed, and even the engineers nodded with gratitude. He had arrived as an outsider, a human in a world that had never known him, and yet he had become a symbol of courage, creativity, and understanding. As night fell over Elendra, the city glowed softly under the stars. The floating gardens shimmered in the gentle light, and the energy conduits pulsed with steady rhythm. Elias walked with Princess Lyra through the palace gardens, reflecting on the events of the past days. He felt a sense of quiet fulfillment, knowing that his presence had inspired growth, confidence, and collaboration. Lyra stopped by a small bioluminescent pond, the water reflecting the stars above. She looked at Elias, her smile gentle but full of admiration. "You have shown us that defiance does not always mean rebellion. Sometimes it means standing firm in one's principles, acting with care, and inspiring others through example. That is a rare and precious gift." Elias nodded. "I only did what felt right. Your people's openness and willingness to learn made it possible. The credit belongs to all of us." Lyra's eyes sparkled with quiet pride. "You have left a mark on Elendra, Elias. Not just through solutions or achievements, but through the qualities you embody: humanity, courage, and understanding. That is a mark that will last far beyond your visit." As they gazed at the softly glowing city below, a sense of harmony settled over Elendra. Citizens returned to their homes with minds and hearts inspired, children dreaming of possibilities, and adults reflecting on the lessons of collaboration and creativity. Elias had arrived as a visitor, but he had left as a teacher, a guide, and a symbol of the strength of humanity. Princess Lyra's final words to him were quiet, yet filled with significance. "The human who stood defiant has reminded us of what truly matters. You have our gratitude, our respect, and my personal approval." Elias smiled, humbled and grateful. He knew that the city, its citizens, and the princess had embraced the best of humanity, not through force or dominance, but through courage, understanding, and the willingness to think differently. And with that, he looked to the stars, ready for the journeys yet to come, knowing that he had left a lasting impact on a world that would never forget him. The human stood defiant, and the princess smiled in approval.